In the last video, we talked about building from alignment, about love as a practice, about what it means to show up differently in your daily life. But there's a layer beneath all of that which we haven't fully examined yet. And once you understand it, really understand it, not just intellectually, the way you walk through every single day will be permanently altered. Here it is. Your thoughts are not happening inside a private, sealed container with no effect on the world around you. Your thoughts are happening to your life. Right now, continuously, without pause. The invisible construction project. Think about how a building comes into existence. Before a single brick is laid, before a single foundation is dug, there is a thought, an architect's vision, a blueprint, something that existed nowhere except in someone's mind. And then, gradually, through sustained effort and action, that invisible idea becomes a physical reality that thousands of people can walk through, live in, experience with their senses. Your life works exactly the same way. Every condition in your life, your relationships, your finances, your health, your sense of purpose, began as a pattern of thought, held consistently, reinforced repeatedly, believed deeply enough to influence behavior. This is not a motivational concept. This is a description of how reality actually functions. The quality of your thinking is the blueprint of your experience. Thoughts have substance. Here is what most people misunderstand about this. They hear it and think, yes, positive thinking, good attitude, silver lining. They reduce it to a kind of emotional management strategy. But this goes far deeper than attitude. Thoughts produce energy. They create measurable vibrations. They influence the chemistry of your body, the quality of your decisions, the kind of attention you bring to your day, the signals you send to the people around you, all of which combine to shape what your life becomes. This is not poetic language. The mind and body are one system. Every shift in your thinking creates an immediate physiological response. Every pattern of thought you sustain rewires the neural architecture of how you perceive the world. When you consistently think from a place of lack, of not enough, of things not working, of people not being trustworthy, you are not simply having unpleasant thoughts. You are building a lens. And through that lens, every piece of evidence that confirms your scarcity, your isolation, your limitation becomes visible, while everything that contradicts it disappears. And the reverse is equally true. The thoughts that run beneath your conscious awareness. Here's the part that catches most people off guard. You are aware of a fraction of your thoughts, a small, visible fraction, the ones that appear clearly in words, in deliberate reasoning, in conscious decision-making. But beneath that running constantly, shaping everything without your awareness, is a far more powerful stream, the accumulated beliefs of a lifetime, the conclusions drawn from childhood experiences, the voices of people who shaped you, now internalized so deeply they feel like your own. These are the thoughts that actually run your life. Not your intentions, not your goals, not your values as you understand them consciously. The deep automatic patterns that operate below the surface. And here is why this matters enormously. You cannot override these patterns with willpower alone. You cannot simply decide to be abundant when a belief in scarcity is running underneath your decision. You cannot decide to be confident when an old voice is still telling you that you are not enough. You cannot decide to trust when a deeper layer of you is on constant alert for betrayal. The work is not at the level of behavior, the work is at the level of belief. How to begin working at the level of beliefs? The first step is honesty, radical, patient honesty. Look at the conditions in your life right now, not to judge them, but to read them as information. Your current circumstances are the visible result of your predominant patterns of thought over time. They are the house that was built from the blueprint you've been running, consciously and unconsciously. If you find yourself repeatedly in relationships that feel the same way, even with different people, there is a pattern of thought creating that. If money arrives and disappears in cycles you can't seem to break, there is a pattern of thought underneath that. If health challenges persist despite your best efforts, the thought patterns deserve examination alongside the physical habits. This is not about blame, this is about authorship. Because here's the extraordinary thing. If your thoughts built the conditions you're living in, your thoughts can rebuild them. The language you use to yourself. Pay close attention to the words you use when you speak to yourself. Not the words you use publicly, the ones you use privately, the internal narration that runs continuously. When something goes wrong, what do you say to yourself immediately? When you look in the mirror, what is the immediate thought? When you think about your future, is the language you use expansive or contracted? Most people, if they listened honestly to their internal narration for a single day, would be appalled. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to another person they cared about. And then they wonder why their energy feels depleted, why confidence is elusive, why possibility feels distant. The words you use consistently to yourself become your reality. Not eventually, immediately. They shape your mood, your physiology, your behavior, your relationships in real time. Begin by noticing, not by forcing a change, but by witnessing. What does the voice inside actually say? Changing the pattern. Change happens when you introduce a new thought, not once, not occasionally, but consistently and with genuine feeling. Not an empty affirmation repeated mechanically, something you actually believe is possible, something that creates even a small shift in how you feel when you say it. This is precise work, it requires patience. Because the old pattern doesn't disappear the first time you think something new. It has momentum. It will reassert itself. It will feel more natural, more real, more honest than the new thought. But each time you return to the higher thought, each time you consciously redirect your internal narration towards something that is true at a deeper level than the surface evidence suggests, you are rewiring the blueprint. Not dramatically, not overnight, but genuinely, cumulatively. Until one day you notice that the new thought doesn't require effort anymore. It has become the default, and the life around you has quietly, incrementally rearranged itself to match it. The thought that stops most people. Here is where many people get stuck. They look at their circumstances, at what is currently real in their life, and they say, but this is the truth. This is what's actually happening. How can I think differently when the evidence in front of me says otherwise? This is the most important question in this entire series. And the answer requires a complete reversal of how you've been taught to see cause and effect. You were taught circumstances first, then response. The world operates like this, inner state first, then circumstances. The people who wait for their conditions to improve before they allow themselves to feel abundant, peaceful, purposeful, connected, are waiting for something that can only arrive after the inner state shifts. Not before. The shift must happen first, in thought, in feeling, in orientation. The outer reality follows, not magically, not without action, but the action taken from the new inner state creates entirely different results than the same action taken from the old one. A practice to begin today. At some point today, not later, not tomorrow, sit for 5 minutes with this question. What is the most persistent thought I have about myself? Not the surface answer, the one underneath that. Write it down exactly as it sounds in your internal voice. Then ask, is this actually true? Or is this a conclusion I drew long ago from limited information and have been carrying since as though it were fact? Because here is what's genuinely remarkable. Most of the beliefs that limit us most severely were formed before the age of 10. We are adults now, living our adult lives, making our adult decisions. From the conclusions of a child. In the next video, we take this into a territory that surprises almost everyone. Because if your thoughts create your reality, what does that mean for what you believe about abundance, about what you deserve, about how much of the good in this world is actually available to you? The answer will challenge everything you were taught.